Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the review of the Spring Summer 2020 Balenciaga collection, designed by none other than Demna Gvasalia. I'm so sorry, I still do not know how to pronounce his name. Forgive me once again for my cold, you guys. Let's just get right into this video. Let me show you guys all the categories that I've identified. So, one of the categories that I found was the Addams family. Another category was basically Ferrero Rocher wrappers. Of course, the 80s was a big influence in this collection, from shoulder pads to leotards. Gosh, there were so many 80s references. I just basically filled this section up with shoulder pads. But let's get into our first category, which is florals. Alright then, so you guys are going to see the Addams family references sprinkled all throughout this collection. I mean, in the way that these models walk, in the gloomy way that these models look, it's everywhere. They remind me of Lurch, actually, for those of you who are familiar with the show. I actually really love this floral section. I think they're beautiful. You know, one of the great things about Demna as a designer is that his designs are different. They're obviously unique, but they're still very, very wearable. You know, I mean, I could easily see anybody wearing this. You know, from a Celine Dion to a Michelle Obama. You know, it seems like the type of thing that you could really wear to lunch, but it also seems like the kind of thing that you could even wear to the supermarket. I really love Demna's florals. So not only do you see the Addams family references sprinkled all throughout this collection, but you also see the 80s sprinkled all throughout. Not just the 80s, but just also, when you look at these florals, don't they remind you of like your grandmother's wallpaper, your grandmother's floral wallpaper? It's beautiful. I mean, I love it. But it makes me think of that. I mean, often Demna has been, well, quite frankly, often he's been criticized for, in a sense, I don't want to say appropriating because he's from that culture, but sort of commercializing the poverty of Eastern Europe way back when in the 90s and stuff, you know. I'm not showing you here the full-on collection, but if you see his full collection, and of course, we know Demna, right, from Vetmon and everything. A lot of times when he wears with like logos of DHL or different companies on his shirt, I mean, it's supposed to resemble like the kind of clothing that people with very little money would go out and buy. You know, not even buy, just like take from like charities and stuff. You know, so there's a lot of. It's basically clothing inspired by poor people but to be bought by rich people. You know, I don't know how you feel about that, but the clothing is still quite beautiful. In a world where it seems as if everybody's running out of ideas, it's so nice to see Demna. It's so nice to see these beautiful designs, these beautiful flowy designs. Okay, so this next model, quite frankly, looks as if she's genetically related to the Addams family. I mean, even by the way that she looks, I mean, quite frankly. I love this look, though. So the shoulder pads in this next look are a little heavy, they're a little hard. It's probably not something that you would find too often being worn by people. Perhaps for editorials you could see these types of shoulder pads, but I don't know. I actually really love just how saturated with references from the past this collection is. I mean, this is very pin-up-y, but again, it reminds me of like the Golden Girls. You know that show from the 80s, the Golden Girls? You know, the show with old ladies, of course. Looks like something they would wear more or less, doesn't it? Alright then, so shoulder pads again. This is very boss woman, right? I mean, perhaps you wouldn't see your own mother wearing something like this, but I actually really like this look. I think it's really, really cool. I mean, if I were a millionaire and if I was going into work in the morning, I wouldn't really mind putting on a Demna shoulder padded look. This next zebra look is pretty cool too, like it. Again, the Addams family meets the 80s with this look. I actually do not really like how things are going on in that shoulder area. I mean, I suppose it's kind of different, kind of creative. It's kind of editorial. You'd see it in a magazine. But I'm not sure if it's really something you would really wear out. It's a little bit awkward, you know? It's awkward. I mean, you know how fashion people oftentimes tend to praise like the really weird, the really out there. This kind of looks like the really weird out there looks that the fashion people would really praise. But like the everyday Joes, like the rest of us, we wouldn't really be caught dead wearing something like that. The way that it's hunched, that shoulder, going back to that shoulder, the way that it's just not very attractive. You know, it's weird. I love the black color. I also really love how the fashion show is set in this parliament type place. You know, it's got this EU blue going on. I mean, this outfit, you know, if what is her name? If Angela Merkel was slightly more fashionable or slightly more stylish, she could probably rock something like this, right? But then she turned the whole thing into a spectacle. Instead of talking about immigration, we'd be talking about her Balenciaga look. Probably not the best idea for the prime minister to be, for the chancellor to be wearing. Pardon me, I'm not very well versed in European politics. There's something about this look that feels especially dated. I'm not too sure if I really enjoy it. This next look, it's not all that hot either. I'm not too sure how I feel about this look either. It almost looks as if something that you'd fish out of a, what are those places called? It's right at the tip of my tongue. You know, those places where you go fish out worn clothing, you know what I mean? It really looks like something that comes from the 80s. It's something about the color, something about the pattern, something about the fabric. I'm just not into it. I mean, Cruella de Vil could definitely rock something like this. In fact, I think we know where the inspiration comes from. Yeah, but again, a little too 80s looking for me. Somebody called Grace Jones. They've raided her closet. Again, way too 80s. So let us casually try to ignore what's going on with this model's cheekbones. I have no idea what kind of plastic surgery is going on around here, and let's just focus on the clothes. So what do I feel about this outfit? It's not, I mean, obviously we can appreciate the architecture that goes into it, right? We can appreciate the architecture. I love the architecture. And if I was the child of a big politico, I'd probably be rocking this if I was the daughter of some big politico, you know. You could definitely see like a Hillary Clinton, assuming that she actually knows who Balenciaga is, assuming that she even knows who Demna is. She could probably rock something like this. I think it's pretty, I like how it's elegant, how it's subtle, and yet it's still different because, again, the structure. The way that this next model is tipping to the side, it's like she's about to fall over. Somebody save her. This next look is really fit for a monster. Again, I see a sprinkle of Addams family here. Obviously, we have to appreciate each designer because they all have their own personalities, right? But personally, I prefer things that are more skin-tight and sexier. Like this next section right here. Now, this makes me think of leotards. It makes me think of Led Zeppelin. I have no idea why, because I've almost never heard a Led Zeppelin song. You know, it makes me think of the nightlife. It makes me think of rock stars. It makes me think of parties. It makes me think of nightclubs. Seeing this section really makes me want to get down. And then we see Bella Hadid wearing another sexy outfit. Fit for the club, fit for dancing, fit for going out at night. But that fabric though, that's a really interesting fabric. What is that? I mean, is this fabric really made for you to like sweat and stuff, like when you're in the nightclubs and everything? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of pretty. I don't really like the colors very much, to be honest. I like the red Gigi Hadid one better, but this one and this black one, not really, not for me. But of course, Demna knows what he's doing. You know, he loves product. He's a lover of product. We have not talked about the accessories or the shoes in this collection, but there's a lot of very wearable, very accessible, well, not accessible considering the price range. Obviously, we're talking about Balenciaga here, but by accessible I mean, you know, the type of things that regular people could actually wear and go out into the daylight with. So there's a lot of easily producible products here. And of course, we see the 80s again. Ooh, look at this model's face. She looks pissed. She looks angry. You know, almost as if her like date forgot to pick her up to go to the prom or something. You know what I mean? And as she showed up alone or something. You know, ugh. The lame fabric. Lame. I'm not sure how I feel about this fabric. You know, very 80s disco. Not really for me. This dress was really the only one of its kind here. Alright, you guys, now comes the section that the whole of the internet, the fashion internet, was raving about. You know, these dresses, these Alien, E.T., Area 51, Ferrero Rocher wrapper dresses, you know, that blob on the bottom. I have to say, honestly, I love these dresses. They're just so fucking beautiful, you guys. I know they're like the weirdest thing ever, but they're weird and they're beautiful. I honestly hope that somebody wears this. I really hope somebody like Gaga wears this or something. It is phenomenal. It is otherworldly, and yet it is so mundane. I love it. It looks like giant gelatin or something. I don't even know how to describe it, you know. And how curious that this week we were talking about on the news, for those of you who watch the news or you don't watch the news, we were talking about UFOs and everything. We were talking about how UFOs could actually be a real thing. There could actually be aliens. You know, I mean, imagine these dresses would be the kind of dresses that people would wear to go interact with extraterrestrial life. I mean, if we can invite them to our conferences and stuff like that. The gold one is not my favorite. I do not like that big bow all on the top like that. It's just, it did not have to be there. You know, I felt like it was a bit much. I still love these dresses here as well. There's something about them that feels a little, I almost can't even come up with the word to describe them. It makes me think of, what does it make me think of? Oh gosh, I'm running out of words here. Demna has left me speechless. But I love them still. I love their simplicity and yet their weirdness, their extraterrestrialness, their gorgeousness, the color, the movements, the structure, the architecture. I hope that this direction is not just a one-off, and I hope that it's one that will be explored in future collections to come. Because I really think that he hit the ball out of the park with this one. You know, I honestly find them to be exquisite, absolutely exquisite. I mean, all in all, I would have to say that this was a very strange collection. Well, I mean, not that strange for those of us who are more familiar with his designs. The truth is that Balenciaga on the whole, most of this collection wasn't all that different. We've seen much of the same things in Vêtements, if we're really honest. In terms of originality, it was not all that different from the things that we've seen from him before. So, I mean, if I were to come up with a ranking, I'd probably come up with like a 3 or something. Though I'd have to say, this last part really adds. I mean, it really is thanks to this last part that I really given the biggest reviews. I mean, truthfully, I was looking for an experience, and I got that experience, you know, with this set and this last section. But on the whole, it was not really. This is not our first time on the rodeo, you know. I mean, it's not the very first time that we're being introduced to these ideas. They're not different, you know. I mean, right now, Balenciaga most likely hired Demna really to turn it into a cash cow. These ideas are just not all that new anymore. Anyway, you all, I really hope that you enjoyed my video, and I will see you next time.